Happy Mother's Day, 5 days. I can tell you on one hand how many days until Prince Caspian comes out. We're so close, so much going on Narnia Web. I'm going to see it this Friday. This time next week, I'll probably have seen it twice. I started this blog, with 390-something days to go, and here we are. 5 days to go. This is it. But I've been looking at some of my old videos, and the main reason I started this blog thing in the first place is then and now. I like to see what my initial reactions were. If you see my first video, I talked about this a little bit. It's fun seeing what my reactions were initially to something I'd seen versus what it ended up being after I saw the movie. After I see the movie, I'm going to watch all my videos from beginning to end and say, it's funny, I thought that was a big issue, and it wasn't a big issue, or I totally guessed wrong on that one, or I was dead on that one. That'll be fun. Well, so that's the main reason I do it. This the fun of that, and I've been doing that. Recently. I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I just kind of want to look at in this video some of the issues over the past year, just over a year. I've been doing this blog. There were big issues. A lot of them ended up not being that big of a deal. Some of them ended up being a much bigger deal than we thought. A lot of them, I almost forgot it was an issue. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to post this as a video response to my third video called The Issues. And I'm going to be, I looked at that one, and I'm going to take most of the issues I'm going to talk about today I first raised in that video so long ago. That was like 69 videos ago. It was crazy. And I've gotten a little bit better at it now. But one of the issues I raised there was, of course, Ben Barnes' age. I think that was the first super controversial issue, right? Everyone had to have an opinion on that one. What do you think? Is he too old? And Caspian's 13 in the book. Ben Barnes is 25. And I initially posted some pretty negative comments on that. I'd said, I can't believe this. He's too old. Doesn't even look at all like how I imagined Caspian. I was kind of angry, although I did say, but I'm trying, I did say, at least, trying to be optimistic because all the casting choices in wardrobe were so dead on. And Caspian's age, the media still harps on that issue, but is it really that big of an issue among fans? Maybe we just talked it to death. I don't know, but I haven't even really given it much thought. I think that it's generally accepted. I think it's certainly for me that hey, William Moseley is aged. They couldn't just cast a 13-year-old. That would not have worked for the story. And Ben Barnes, obviously, he looks younger. I think he, like Mark Johnson who said, he doesn't look a day over 20. I think I agree with that. And also, there's just something about him that even though he's not how I imagined Caspian, there's something about it. I can look at him and say, for 2 hours, I can accept that he's Caspian. There's just something about him. And as far as, there's some talk about his hair, because, everyone, Caspian's got blonde hair. And I just don't care. I think the whole idea for the Telmarines is actually good. I think the whole, pirate thing that they got from the book is a cool thing to make the Telmarines different. And I think Ben Barnes is going to be great in this role, and his age is not really that big of an issue. It's kind of funny. We heard kind of early on that Caspian was going to be, quote, egotistical in this one. And that was something where I actually thought that sounded like a good idea at first. I think I said that in video number 3, where I said, Caspian, maybe what they're doing is giving him a journey to where he ends up. And, the whole thing with Caspian saying, I'm not ready to be king. I don't feel myself sufficient. They're just giving him a journey to where he ends up in the book. And I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. They're just giving him a minor thing. That turned out to be a huge thing. But really not so much with Caspian, but the Pevensies, Peter in particular. There's this huge conflict there where there's egos are clashing. And that's become arguably the biggest issue in this film. Certainly one of the most controversial is what they've done with Peter and Caspian and how they really go at it. And so that's something that I really didn't think would be that big of a deal. That's huge. That's one of the biggest issues in the film, and I have a huge problem with that, with what they've done. That's the whole idea of the myth becoming fact. It just seems to really get in the way of that. And so that's kind of funny. Good Minotaurs. When was the last time I talked about that? My whole video number 2 was about my concerns over there being good Minotaurs. And I don't know, maybe it's just because there are so many other issues that are so much bigger than that in comparison. But I really don't care. It's not something, I'm not going to say it's something I like. It's not something I like, but I just don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. Whatever. And so that's something I was kind of concerned about at first, and that was no big deal. New visual effects houses. That was another really controversial one early on. And like I said in video number 3, that's something where it was one of the rare situations where I was the one saying, hey guys, it's really not that big of a deal. Andrew Adamson is still directing this movie. The visual effects, I'm sure it'll be fine. But people were worried about continuity. And if there's any problem with continuity with the visual effects, it's the fact that the effects in this one look so much better than Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so that's the only continuity issue there, which I'm fine with. The fawns in particular, I noticed in some of the new clips, the effects look incredible. Like their legs are so much more believable. It seems like they really captured more the subtle nuances of the actors' movements, and so I think a huge step up for the visual effects. I talked about the timeline. And actually, if you watch, I think it was video number 6, which I filmed on Mother's Day, which is kind of cool. Today is Mother's Day, so it was almost exactly a year ago today that I did video number 6 about my theories on what they could do with the flashback problem. But in video number 3, I talked about I said this is perhaps the biggest problem with Prince Caspian as an adaptation and the most challenging thing. And I stand by what I said over a year ago, that there doesn't seem to be a perfect way to do this. And but then in number 6, I had my theory about how I thought they could do it. Their theory in some places is actually kind of similar to mine, particularly how they begin it is kind of similar to mine. But I think it sounds to me like, based on what we know, that's kind of blurry. I don't really know how it works. But it sounds like they come up with a pretty good idea. You know, they have to make some changes that are unfortunate, but for the most part, I think they're necessary. It sounds like they've done a good job taking something very uncinematic and making it work for screen without having to make too many changes. And so I think it sounds like they've done good job with this. So we'll just have to see the movie all the way through really to judge it, because it's kind of a complex issue. But so yeah, that's when I identified that immediately as one of the big central issues. That'll be one of the things I'm really curious to see. The romance. I initially didn't think that would be an issue at all. Like, Narnia Web posted that as an April Fool's joke. Hey, there's going to be a Caspian-Susan romance. Haha, everyone, the people who believed it were horrified. The people who knew it was a joke got a great laugh over it. And now it turns out it might be real. The irony is almost too much. Oh, it's just too much. But I thought that, based on what we heard, I thought it would just be like one scene where they were like flirting or something, which that seemed bad enough. If you watch my video number 13, I talked, and when we first saw that awkward shot of where he's holding the crossbow and he kind of looks at her, I was kind of thinking, yeah, it's just going to be one scene. And now it looks like it's going to be more. Like, it's certainly big enough to where they mention it in reviews pretty frequently, and it will actually call it at least a small romance. And never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that Caspian-Susan, or anyone for that matter, would kiss. And now it's looking like it's interesting what Ben Barnes said in a recent interview about how they've cut out some of the flirting clips. He said they were worried about it coming across that way, and they've cut out some of the clips, and so the kiss at the end comes across as more spontaneous. I still don't like the kiss. I hate the kiss still, but hey, at least it seems like they were aware that, hey, this could be a problem, and they've made it not so bad. But I can't believe, it's so hard to believe that over a year ago we were laughing about this, about haha, that'd be so funny if they did that. They're doing it. And I can't believe I'm sitting here having a serious discussion about how bad the Caspian-Susan romance is going to be. It just seems like a joke. But I don't think it's going to be as bad as we're fearing it's going to be. But I'm expecting to be squirming in my seat during that scene. Reepicheep, I didn't think that would be an issue hardly at all. And now that was that's my most commented video. Reepicheep's fur, and when I was on the set in Prague, I saw a stuffed animal about this big of Reepicheep, or I assumed it was Reepicheep, and he had totally white fur with a little bit brown on his back, but it was totally white, which I thought was, made me think of Pinky and the Brain, and hated that, because I love the black Reepicheep in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. You can call me racist, but I love the black Reepicheep in Dawn Treader, and so I was kind of concerned about that. Turns out, I don't know what the heck I saw on set, but it doesn't look like hardly at all what we see in the final film, and I'm okay with the design, especially since they look like, I love Eddie Izzard, and so that's no big deal at all. But those are some of the issues that were big. Some of them aren't big anymore. Some of them are. And after I see the movie, I'll probably do a video like this again, where we judge, like, well, how much did we get right? How much did we get wrong? What was the big deal? What wasn't? But that's the main reason I started this in the first place, is after I see the movie, I'll be able to watch all, this is like 73. I don't know, maybe I'll have 80 by the time the movie comes out, I don't know. But I'll be able to watch all of them back to back to back and see, how I felt initially. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be able to do that in about 5 days. 5 days, here it comes.